He was seen. He was stopped. He was asked if he needed help. And then he vanished. Bryce Laspisa did not disappear in a dark alley or during a violent crime. He disappeared while being watched, questioned, and given multiple chances to go home. That is what makes this case so unsettling. Not what happened at the end, but how many moments existed where everything could have stopped and somehow did not. In August of 2013, Bryce Laspisa was a 19-year-old college student attending Sierra College in Rocklin, California. To anyone looking at his life from a distance, there was no obvious reason to panic. He had supportive parents, a girlfriend he had been dating seriously, no criminal record, no history of violence, and no documented mental illness that would immediately explain what happened next. But beneath the surface, something was breaking. Months before his disappearance, Bryce began to change. Friends later described him as emotionally distant, detached, and strangely calm in situations where emotion would be expected. He stopped attending classes regularly. He spoke less. He began giving away personal belongings, including items that had sentimental value. When asked why, he said he simply did not need them anymore. At the time, no one connected the dots. On August 27th, Bryce packed his car and prepared to drive from his college apartment to his parents' home in Laguna Niguel, California. It was supposed to be a straightforward 7-hour drive. He said goodbye to his girlfriend. He told her he loved her. He got into his car and left. But he did not go home. Instead, Bryce stopped along Interstate 5, near Buttonwillow, California. And there he stayed. For reasons that remain unexplained, Bryce remained parked for nearly 13 hours. During this time, he made phone calls to his parents. Each call sounded normal. His voice was calm. He did not sound scared, distressed, or confused. He repeatedly told them he was just tired and resting. But resting does not explain 13 hours. Other people noticed him too. A truck driver stopped and spoke to Bryce, later saying something felt off. Eventually, California Highway Patrol officers were called to perform a welfare check. This moment is critical because it shows how close Bryce was to intervention. The officers questioned him. They ran his license. They checked for intoxication or impairment. Bryce passed every test. He was coherent, responsive, and polite. He showed no signs that legally justified detaining him. The officers even called his parents directly, explaining the situation. His parents begged him to come home. Bryce said he would. Then he stayed. Hours later, Bryce was still sitting there. Still parked. Still not moving. Still insisting he was fine. Finally, early the next morning, Bryce began driving again. Surveillance footage confirmed his car traveling south. That footage is the last confirmed image of Bryce driving normally. Shortly after, his phone stopped transmitting data. Later that day, Bryce's car was found wrecked at the bottom of a ravine near Castaic Lake. At first glance, it looked like a tragic accident. The car had gone off a cliff and rolled down roughly 25 feet. But as responders approached, the situation became far more disturbing. There was no body. Inside the vehicle, Bryce's wallet remained. His laptop was still in the trunk. His belongings were mostly intact. There was damage consistent with a crash, but no blood patterns that would indicate a fatal injury. His phone, however, was gone. Search teams flooded the area. Dogs tracked scents. Helicopters scanned the lake. Divers searched the water repeatedly. Nothing was found. No footprints leading away. No torn clothing. No sign that Bryce was injured badly enough to prevent movement. It appeared that Bryce exited the vehicle under his own power. That single fact shattered every simple explanation. If Bryce crashed accidentally, why leave the car? If he crashed intentionally, why survive? If he survived uninjured, why disappear completely? Investigators examined the crash more closely. Some experts suggested that the lack of skid marks indicated the car may not have braked before going off the cliff. That raised the possibility that the crash was intentional. But if so, the lack of injury and Bryce's disappearance afterward made no sense. What followed was years of speculation, theories, and unanswered questions. Some believe Bryce suffered a mental health crisis and wandered into the surrounding wilderness, eventually dying from exposure. Others believe he staged the crash as part of a deliberate disappearance, possibly intending to start a new life elsewhere. There have been unconfirmed sightings reported across the country, but none have been substantiated. What makes Bryce's case particularly haunting is not just that he vanished, but how slowly it happened. He did not snap. He did not flee suddenly. He lingered. He paused. He existed in a state between leaving and staying, between being fine and being gone. He was asked directly if he needed help. He said no. And then he vanished anyway. Over time, Bryce Laspisa became a symbol of a certain kind of disappearance. Not the violent kind. Not the impulsive kind. But the quiet kind. The kind where nothing looks wrong and yet everything is. And that is why this story does not end here. Because Bryce was not alone. Years earlier, another man showed the same pattern. Strange behavior. Careful preparation. A life that appeared stable. No sign of struggle. No forced entry. No crime scene. But unlike Bryce, this man was not a teenager. He was a powerful prosecutor. A man who handled sensitive cases. A man who knew how investigations worked. A man who understood exactly what it meant to leave no trace. Before he disappeared, he packed his belongings neatly. He deleted files. He withdrew money. He left his house intact. And then he vanished. His name was Ray Gricar. And when you place Bryce Laspisa's disappearance beside Ray Gricar's, the similarities become impossible to ignore. Because sometimes, the most disturbing disappearances are not about being taken. They are about choosing to walk away, and never being seen again. Ray Gricar did not disappear in chaos. He disappeared in silence. And sometimes, silence is the most disturbing evidence of all. By the time Ray Gricar vanished, he had spent more than 3 decades inside the American justice system. He was not impulsive. He was not careless. He was a man trained to anticipate consequences, to think several steps ahead, to understand how actions echo long after they are taken. Everything about his professional life revolved around caution, discretion, and control. Which is exactly why his disappearance makes no sense. On April 15, 2005, Ray Gricar left his home in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, in what appeared to be a completely ordinary moment. He told his girlfriend he was going out for a drive. Maybe to relax. Maybe to clear his head. He often did this. There was no argument. No emotional tension. No indication that this day was different from any other. And yet, it was the last day of his life as anyone knew it. When he failed to return, concern did not immediately turn into panic. Ray was independent. He valued solitude. But as hours stretched into days, something began to feel deeply wrong. His phone went unanswered. His routine was broken. A man defined by structure had vanished from it entirely. Several days later, investigators found his car. It was parked near the Susquehanna River. Locked, clean, undisturbed. No signs of a struggle. No forced entry. No abandoned personal items scattered in haste. The car was positioned neatly as if its owner intended to return shortly. It did not look like the scene of a disappearance. It looked like a pause. Search teams flooded the area. Divers searched the river. Helicopters scanned the surrounding terrain. The Susquehanna is a wide river, powerful in places, but not unforgiving enough to erase a body without leaving something behind. And yet, nothing surfaced. No body. No clothing. No evidence. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. Still nothing. Then investigators began uncovering details that changed the entire tone of the case. Months before his disappearance, Ray Gricar had destroyed the hard drive from his personal computer. Not erased. Not wiped. Destroyed. Physically removed and discarded in a way that made recovery impossible. When asked about it, Gricar reportedly said he did not want anyone reading his personal files if something ever happened to him. At the time, the comment passed quietly. After his disappearance, it sounded like a warning. Ray Gricar was not just any prosecutor. He was the district attorney of Center County. Over the years, his office had overseen multiple sensitive investigations involving powerful institutions. He had knowledge others did not, context others lacked. And while he was known for avoiding media attention, he was deeply aware of the weight of information. People close to him described no signs of depression, no sudden changes in behavior, no financial distress, no unraveling personal life. He had plans. He had commitments. He had a future that appeared stable, which made the early suggestion of suicide feel forced. Suicide usually leaves traces, a decision point, a final act, a body. Ray Gricar left none. Adding to the unease was a chilling coincidence. Gricar disappeared on April 15th, exactly 7 years to the day after his predecessor, Tom Burhans, died by suicide, jumping from the same bridge over the Susquehanna River. The symmetry was impossible to ignore. Was it coincidence? Was it symbolic? Or was it a message only a few people would understand? Unlike Bryce Laspisa, whose final hours were marked by confusion, emotional instability, and visible distress, Ray Gricar's final known actions were calm, deliberate, almost clinical. There were no frantic phone calls, no erratic movements, no emotional breakdown captured in fragments. Just absence. Some believe Gricar chose to end his life, carefully selecting a location where the river could carry him away. But that theory raises a question no one has been able to answer convincingly. Why destroy the hard drive months in advance? Why remove information before any visible crisis? Others believe he staged his disappearance, that he knew something was coming, that staying visible was more dangerous than vanishing, that erasing himself was the only way to survive. But disappearing without money, without documents, without confirmed sightings for years stretches plausibility. And then there is the theory few want to say out loud, that Ray Gricar did not leave, that he was taken, quietly, efficiently, by people who understood investigations, people who knew how evidence works, people who knew that a missing body creates uncertainty, and uncertainty paralyzes truth. What makes this case so terrifying is not what we know, it's what we don't. Ray Gricar vanished without mistakes, without panic, without witnesses, without a trail. He disappeared inside a system he understood better than almost anyone. Bryce Laspisa showed us how a person can unravel in plain sight. Ray Gricar shows us something far darker. How a person can be erased without noise. And when someone disappears inside their own life, with intention, precision, and silence, it forces a final question that has no comfortable answer. Did Ray Gricar choose to vanish? Or did he know too much to remain? If a man whose career was built on uncovering truth could disappear without leaving a trace, what does that say about how fragile truth really is? And how many answers vanished with him? If this case unsettled you, make sure to leave a like. It helps these stories reach more people who still care about unanswered questions. And if you want more deep investigations into disappearances that were never supposed to happen, subscribe to the channel. Some stories don't end. They just wait to be told again.